Hey guys, welcome to a new video. Like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy. Without any further interruptions, enjoy the what if. Chapter 1. A Blood Man is Born. Devil Fruits. Their power can be a parlor trick or world-shattering forces of nature. One can turn into a bird and soar above the clouds, or crack the very sky and rock the planet. This jumbled bag has raised many questions about their origins, but no one has a finite answer. The commonly accepted answer is the sea devil bore these powerful creations into existence. They were his protected creations. The punishment for anyone who eats one is banishment from the sea. Cursed to never enter his kingdom. The most interesting and supposedly powerful of these fruits are the Logia class. These fruits allow the person who eats them to control a part of the world as they see fit. One may turn their body to fire and control all fire around them. This immense power can make a Logia user feel invincible, but this is far from the truth. The Sea Devil has still banished all devil fruit users from his kingdom in any and all forms. Seastone, another creation born from his power, was his way to punish those who were clever enough to avoid his domain. It can negate the effects of the fruit, but not entirely. One known fruit is able to completely negate any other power. The Yami Yami no Mi. The power of darkness is capable of crushing the very power of devil fruits themselves. The Sea Devil made it with extreme care. It was a force to be reckoned with. There was one however that could match its terrifying presence, the Chi Chi no Mi. While the Yami Yami no Mi can control darkness, and to an extent by this force gravity, it can only negate powers through direct contact, forcing all the power out of the user. The Chi Chi no Mi did not need direct contact. It could negate these abilities by preventing a Logia from transforming in the first place. The Sea Devil released it to the world when he believed it would have the utmost effect. He had not failed. The resurgence of this fruit brought about new ages in human history, and he believed it was time for it to be born anew. Luffy frowned at the sight of Shanks cleaning up a mess that damn Higuma made. Shanks could have defeated him with one arm. Maybe he wasn't as great as he thought. Yet he still wouldn't let him join. He huffed as he gulped down his juice and slumped up on the counter. He'd show Shanks. He was going to be more powerful than him. Luffy sighed as he rubbed his stomach. First, he was hungry. He tried to get Makino's attention, but she was preoccupied with helping clean up. He reached in the chest on the counter. If Shanks was going to mock him, he'd eat his dessert. It was a large, deep red fruit with patterns reminiscent of teardrops. Or drops of blood of this case. Shanks took a big swig from the bottle before he thanked Makino. Giving him her last bottle was just like her. He turned to try and apologize to Luffy before his eyes widened. He grabbed Luffy and started shaking him violently. Luffy, spit it out, spit it out. But it was too late. Luffy had just swallowed. Blah, Shanks, why did you have such a shitty tasting fruit? Luffy cried as he started to scratch at his tongue, longing for a time when he didn't taste the fruit. It tasted like he cut open his tongue but couldn't spit out the pooling blood. Damn it, Luffy. That wasn't an ordinary fruit. That was a devil fruit, Luffy. Shanks cried out, attracting the attention of his crew. You don't even know what kind it was. It could be completely useless. What's worse, the sea curses you for eating it. You'll never be able to swim. Luffy froze in fear before he started to cry. He'd never be a pirate now. How could he if he couldn't swim? He looked back up to Shanks and his friends, only to see the look of anger gone. Shanks had pulled back as he held the boy. Makino recoiled in fear and everyone else covered their mouths. Luffy wiped his tears then looked at his hands, they were dripping blood. Shanks, why am I bleeding? Luffy asked as blood spilled from his eyes, replacing his tears. Shanks had turned ghostly pale. What had he done? Was Luffy going to die from this accursed fruit? Was it his fault? If he only locked the chest, or kept it on the ship? Luffy started crying again and Shanks sprung to action. Luffy, you're going to be okay. Listen to me. Listen to me. Focus on any new feelings. Don't be sad. What can you? Luffy suddenly slipped through Shanks' hands, replaced by a mass of blood. His eyes widened into giant saucers as he felt his stomach contract and threatened to expel its contents. Had Luffy already eaten one? Luffy, he yelled as he jumped up, looking around to his crew. They were in equal state of shock. Their young friend just became a bloody stain on the floor. Makino was in tears as before a voice spoke out. Don't cry, I just focused on the new feeling. They all looked back as Luffy reformed out of the pool of blood. The blood left Shanks' hands and formed back into the boy, who sat on the stool. That was cool, I felt like a puddle. He yelled in astonishment as he held out his hand, watching it turn to blood that suspended in air. What the hell was that? Shanks yelled as he stared at Luffy. Did you just turn into blood? He yelled out as his fear was replaced with anger. You scared the shit out of us. Shishishi. Got you then, Shanks. Luffy responded innocently. He was too used to this already. Shanks took a few deep breaths. Oh, thank God. Luffy. Don't do that again, okay? Not for now. He gripped his stomach and sat down, sighing as he took another swig. I think we can guess your power, Luffy. You can turn your entire body into blood. Shanks said, hiding his true thoughts. He ate a damn Logia. Of all the damn fruits it was that one. What next? Would he stumble upon a mythic zone and give it to a toddler? Luffy. That makes you a bloody fool, he said, laughing as he returned to his normal self. He wouldn't allow the dread inside him to show in front of everyone. He didn't trust devil fruits, especially not this one. If even one iota of information about it was true, he couldn't show it. That was worse than the taste. Luffy muttered, leaving the bar and charging off. He was going to prove Shanks wrong somehow. But first, he wanted to try out this new power. Shanks. Luffy needs help. Higuma's back. A man yelled at the red-haired Shanks. Shanks sprung to his feet and ordered his men to follow. He could let the drinks and mess go, but not attacking Luffy. Please, spare the boy. We'll pay for his safety. Anything. Just don't hurt the boy. Whoopslap pleaded as he saw the sword held to Luffy's throat, causing some blood to spill and reform. Higuma hardly noticed, however, milking in the fear from the crowd who didn't fully understand Luffy's power. Higuma could only laugh at the pleas. This boy was so weak. Every hit made blood fly and he couldn't fight back. Not a chance. This brat is going to pay. Shanks calmly ahead of the crowd. There was no chance this actually hurt Luffy. From what he knew about Logias, nothing could hurt them outside of Seastone, and mountain bandits didn't have that in large supply. Tisk tisk tisk. You really are a bloody fool, aren't you? Shanks asked the boy while smiling. Luffy brightened up when he saw him. Maybe he did know he wasn't in any real danger. So, why are you attacking him? Because this little. Shut up. Luffy, why did you attack him? Shanks asked, angering the bandit. He came back and mocked you, Shanks. I wasn't going to let him get away with it. Luffy yelled back, voice filled with anger at the bandit. Is that so? Fighting our battles for us? Shanks asked, amused by his efforts to protect his name. Will you both shut up? I'm tired of this, Higuma said, drawing back his sword. Hey Luffy, think you can finish this battle yourself? Shanks asked with a smirk. There was a man holding Luffy still for the apparent decapitation. I think so, Luffy said as he closed his eyes and made a fist. Good, because I want to see your punch. Strong as a pistol, right? Shanks asked him with a bit of a smile, making Luffy do the same at the joy in his voice. You pirates are fucking insane. I've had it, Higuma yelled as swung his sword, cleaving straight through the boy's neck in a spray of blood. Higuma started laughing as he looked back at the crowd. You're all pathetic. You won't even fight to save a child. No, we won't fight to save you from a child, Shanks replied smugly as he pointed to Luffy, who formed his head back to his body. Monster. One of Higuma's men yelled as he let go of the boy. Chi pistol. Luffy yelled as he launched a bloody fist to the man's face. He learned that he could send blood with his punches to hit further away. Plus it looked so cool. Shoot this brat, Higuma yelled as he pulled out his pistol. He fired into the boy and watched it pass right through him. Luffy wasn't exceedingly strong, but his fists did damage. The real hit was the fear that they pissed off an immortal monster made of blood. Shanks enjoyed the fight, leaving only Higuma left conscious. The others were either too weak in mind or body to deal with the boy. Okay Luffy, let's. Shanks froze as Luffy leapt at the man, biting into his shoulder. Damn it, that hurt you, you damn. The man started to stumble before looking at the wound. It was spewing out blood at a much greater rate than it should have. It was as if he hit a main artery. He looked back at the boy, who had his hand out and was forcing the blood into his hand. Chi theft, he yelled out as he robbed the man of his blood, making him collapse to his knees. Luffy grew a little taller from the added mass of blood, but only enough to be taller than the kneeling man. He tried to look up, but fell forward on his face as he passed out from blood loss, which Luffy enjoyed from the stronger feeling. There was a long silence as Luffy stood above the dead bandit. He broke it when he turned to Shanks. "That was so cool. Did you see how awesome I was?" Luffy yelled as took a fighting stance. "I gave him a right. Then a left," he said, mimicking a boxer. Shanks was the first to push past the fact that Luffy, a 7-year-old, killed a man. "That was great, Luffy, though you're still weak, Anchor," he said, rubbing the boy's head and messing up his hair. Luffy groaned and kicked the dirt. "I'll never be a pirate now. I can't swim," he said, looking at his feet. "Oh, shut up. You can be anything you want. Just practice with that power of yours and try not to fall in the sea," he said, cheering up the bloody fool. "Thanks, Shanks. So I'm going to join your crew." "Except that," Shanks said with a smile, crushing the boy's dreams. "Then I'm going to be captain of my own crew. Then I'll become king of the pirates." Luffy yelled back defiantly. He saw Shanks' warm smile as he took off his hat and placed it on his head. "If you really mean that, hang on to this for me. It's my most prized possession, and you can give it back when you become Pirate King," Shanks said, tilting it down so he didn't have to see the boy cry. 10 years passed before Luffy's eyes. He had trained hard with his power. He had discovered a powerful skill he wished he knew years ago. He could manipulate the blood inside someone else without drawing a wound. He didn't practice on people, at least he didn't tell anyone, as he made people slap themselves or kick each other in the shin. He had practiced on the wild animals in the woods mostly, stopping birds mid-flight and bears mid-run. "Goodbye everyone, I'll see you all again," he called as he waved. Everyone waved back, until they started shouting and pointing. Luffy smiled and turned, seeing the Lord of the Coast emerge from the water. Luffy rubbed his head. "Never tried this on a big guy like you," Luffy said as he stuck out both arms. "I gotta try, Chi puppet." The Sea King was mid-strike before it froze. Locked in place from the inside, it stared at the moving meal with a mix of hunger and fear. Why couldn't he eat it? Chi tear, Luffy yelled, moving his arms away from each other and tearing the Sea King's blood from its veins. It roared in pain and sunk down in the sea, injured. "That was exhausting," Luffy said as he sat down. "I gotta practice on those things more. That was a lot of power," he said with a smile as he looked out at the blood-soaked portion of the sea. "What a waste of good blood." Sometime later on the boat of the Alvita pirates. "Kobe, why aren't you sharing the spoils with us?" a wide-built pirate asked as he cracked his knuckles. "Aren't we your crew?" he asked mockingly as he shoved him out of the way. "Why yes. Sorry, I was just trying to load it up for you." "You're so kind. Now shut the hell up so we can enjoy ourselves," he barked out as he started to crack it open. He turned his head and proceeded to cough up. "Good God, that's disgusting." The other two peeked in the barrel and promptly followed. Kobe tiptoed over to peek inside, then ran in the corner to throw up. Why would someone ship a barrel full of blood? What kind of sick fucks? He was stopped as the blood started to rise up and form in front of them. Kobe, thankfully, was still throwing up in the corner and spared the frightening show. "What the hell is this thing?" a pirate yelled as he sliced at the body, only to have his sword pass through coated in blood. "No harm done." "Monkey D. Luffy, future Pirate King," the boy said as he formed his head. He punched the two men to his sides and stared at the one with a sword drawn in front of him. The blood on his sword started to creep down the blade and wrapped around his hand. "Think you could spare a pint?" he asked with a smile as he punctured the skin with a quick spike of blood. "We seem to be the same type," Luffy said with a smile as he started to rob the man of his blood, keeping his promise of a mere pint. Thanks," he said as he pushed the weak man down. "Hey, you," Luffy yelled as he walked towards the pink-haired boy in the corner. "Where's the food?" he asked as he turned him around. "I in there," Kobe said weakly at the sight of the beaten pirates. One was even conscious, but wouldn't dare stand. Thanks. So what's your name? Luffy asked as he started marching towards the food. The boy followed closely behind. Kobe, sir, who are you? He asked as they entered the food stores. Ah, you really missed my big declaration? He asked, getting a nod from Kobe. Oh, well, I'm Monkey D. Luffy, I'm gonna be king of the pirates, he said proudly before tearing into the barrel for food. But, you can't just be Pirate King. That's the title given to the most powerful pirate in the world. You can't. Kobe stopped as Luffy's forearm turned to blood and his fist launched at his head. Ow, he said as he wiped the blood from his forehead, though it wasn't his. What was that for? I felt like it, and you insulted my dream. I know it's not an easy thing to do. What's the point of having a goal if it's easy to reach? Luffy asked as he turned from the barrel. What's your dream? I want to be a Marine Admiral, Kobe said back. He couldn't tell if he feared the boy in front of him more than Alvida, but at least he'd kill him quicker than her. Then why are you on a pirate ship? Luffy asked with a puzzled face. I thought it was a fishing boat, Kobe said as he averted his eyes, feeling the berating coming on. Huh, that's pretty dumb, but kinda funny. Luffy laughed as he jumped on the barrel to sit. So, an admiral huh? Guess that means we'd be enemies. Yeah, I guess so, but it's my dream. I want to put people like Alvida away. At the yell, there was a large crash from above them as a large woman dropped down. Kobe, were you talking about me? A not-so-feminine voice asked from the crater. Luffy took the chance and grabbed Kobe, running from the room and upstairs. This sea is so dangerous. Whales can talk, Luffy yelled between pants as he leaned against a wall, much to the surprise of the awaiting pirates. Don't insult Lady Alvida like that, one yelled as he charged the intruder. His sword was narrowly dodged by the man. That was a lady. Kobe, what kind of fish person are you working for? He asked, earning himself another swing from an angry pirate. Shut up, you'll get us killed, he yelled before the ground shook from under him. Lady Alvida climbed the stairs with anger in her eyes. Kill this pest, she ordered, causing everyone to charge the man. He smiled and decided to try a trick. Chi face, he said to himself as he let blood pour from his eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. He outstretched his arms and walked towards the charging men. Help me, he said in a distorted voice, coughing up blood. The pirates froze in fear at the apparently diseased man before them. He coughed up blood, making them back away to avoid what he had. Lady Alvida, he's sick, he's going to die anyway. One yelled as he fell and kicked the ground, backing away. I'm not going to die, the boy said as blood poured from his mouth. It all stopped mid-air and he smiled. I am death. The blood stopped flowing, except from his eyes. The men looked back at Alvida, then at the monster before them. They quickly ran and jumped in the sea, swimming away from the boat. You damned brat, Alvida yelled as she swung her club, causing the boy to explode in blood all around. She laughed as she turned back to Kobe. That makes you the only crew member. At least until I crush your skull in for helping that brat, she said as she hoisted her club. As she went to swing she found it was stuck. With a look she saw her wrist wrapped in blood and her club void of any. What the hell? That could have hurt you know, a familiar voice said as the blood pierced her skin. Type A, interesting, Luffy said as he allowed blood to pool down on the ground from her wound. I'm Type B, want a shot of mine? He asked with a smile as fear filled her eyes. The injection would make her deathly ill. No, then goodbye, you fat whale, he said as he drew back his fist. Chi pistol, he yelled as he launched his bloody fist into her stomach. She launched up and flew into the distance. Huh, what is that twinkle? Are they going to space? That'd be cool, Luffy said as he walked over to Kobe. Hey, let's go, I'm making you a marine, he said as he snatched up the frightened boy. Where are the escape boats? I don't like this ship. The two sailed towards the island for some time, chatting about how long Kobe was on the ship, what he'd do when he was a marine, and what exactly this island was. Luffy could only smile at the mention of Roronoa Zoro, he sounded cool. Luffy jumped off the boat, excited, and dragged Kobe with him. Come on, I want to find Zoro. The mention of the name made people stop, and some start to cry. Luffy looked to them and cocked his head. Hey, what's wrong with them? He asked Kobe, who shook his head in confusion. Luffy walked to a shopkeep and bought an apple. Hey, do you know where Roronoa Zoro is? Luffy asked as he bit into the apple. A damn shame it is. The woman said with a twinge of resent. He's about to be executed. Along with a little girl. Kobe was in shock as Luffy finished off the apple. He thanked the woman and started walking towards the large building, which he figured had to be the Marine one, with Kobe hot on his heels. Why would the Marines execute a little girl? How could Captain Morgan? With that, everyone cowered in fear. Let this happen. Kobe looked to see everyone and frowned. They're scared of the Marine captain. Luffy, why do you? Luffy. Kobe charged back up to the young captain. What are you doing? You can't just attack the Marines. He begged as he grabbed his leg, trying to stop him by acting as an anchor. You can't. I'm going to save Zoro and that little girl. Then, he's going to join my crew. Luffy yelled as he approached the gate. You're really an altruist, aren't you, Luffy? Kobe asked with a sweat drop. He was going to save them to get a crew member. Hey, shut up. I need a crew mate. Besides, no way am I letting them execute a little girl. Luffy said as he squatted down and launched up to the wall. Everyone who knew the girl or her mother came to console her. She wouldn't leave her daughter to die alone, no matter how much it hurt to watch it. She and a green-haired man in white shirt and black pants were tied to thick crucifixes. A row of Marines with rifles stood roughly 10 meters away. They were seemingly waiting for orders from the large, tan, blonde man with an axe for his right hand. He also had a weird metal bottom jaw that Luffy thought made him look like some kind of supervillain. Men, we're here to execute 2 criminals. The man Roronoa Zoro, pirate hunter and swordsman. He assaulted my son's pet wolf, defying my name. The girl, Rika, assisted the man by supplying him food. This is an act of treason, and may not be tolerated. Men, ready your rifles, he ordered, causing them to shakily raise their guns to fire. Please no, she's only a child. This isn't fair. You're evil. The crowd spit at the Marines, taking safety in the form of crowd anonymity. The mother was in tears at the front, looking to her daughter. It's okay, Rika, you'll be all right soon, she called to her crying daughter. Mommy, I'm scared. Help me, the girl cried out, causing some tears to fall from the man beside her. I'm sorry I got you into this. Let's hope their aim is true, he said as he looked towards the Marines. You bastards, she's no part of this. Zoro yelled as the Marines who wouldn't respond, only waiting for orders. Ready, aim. There was an eternal pause after the last word. The Marines closed their eyes as they slowly squeezed the triggers. The crowd averted their eyes. Zoro yelled defiantly at them, which did nothing to cheer up poor Rika, who called out to her mother. Axe Hand Morgan smiled as he watched justice be served. Fire. Luffy leapt towards them just as the order was called, sticking out both of his arms to save their lives. Chi-Chi Marionette, he yelled, forcing the blood in their arms towards the sky. Their arms flew up as their fingers pulled the triggers, causing the bullets to fire harmlessly into the air. Luffy panted as he stared at them. Controlling multiple people was new, but he figured it would get easier. He didn't say a word as the Marines started to reload, preparing to force them all away again. Damn it, kill this traitor for interrupting the execution. Morgan yelled as he walked forward, staring with rage at the boy. The men took aim and shook violently, arms burning from the feeling of blood moving against the normal flow. They stared in horror as he walked closer. Chi-Chi rip, he yelled as he forced the blood from their hands, exploding out towards him in a crimson spray. They fell to the ground after dropping their rifles, each finger squirting blood from the puncture wound and adding to the man's power. They were too focused on their mangled fingers to see him absorb their blood into his body and walk past them. A devil fruit eater. Men, use your swords. Morgan stopped as a shard of blood pierced his chest. The liquid projectile was launched so quickly it acted like a dagger. He tried to pull it out, but its strange nature turned it to blood at his grasp. Morgan gritted his teeth and stared at the boy who defied him. He has to have a weakness. Morgan yelled again as he grabbed his chest. The shard had buried much deeper than he thought, but luckily missed anything vital. Find it, damn it. Luffy walked slowly as the Marines charged him. He drew more blood from the wounded men and launched it forward. Chi blade, he yelled, slicing open the stomachs of the charging men. They fell to ground and grasped at their wounds. His power only grew as he attacked more and more, drawing more blood from the terrified Marines. The men were losing their morale by the second. Everything they threw at him did nothing, and he was barely trying. Captain Morgan, we can't stop him. He's too power. The Marine couldn't finish his sentence before Axe Hand Morgan buried his famous axe in the man's skull, killing him instantly. He slung his arms and sent the man's body out towards the boy, who only absorbed the blood with a disgusting look on his face. You all traitors for not following my orders. You better hope he kills you before I do. Morgan yelled as he charged the lanky pest in front of him. Luffy stopped dead as his let blood coat his eyes. It helped him focus on what he needed to do in the midst of a fight. He waited for Morgan to draw back before focusing on the blood on his blade. Chi trap, Luffy yelled as he dug the blood into his forearm and blade. The axe buried into the side of Luffy's face and caused Morgan to smile. Everyone froze as the boy stood motionless in front of the monster of a man. The crowd was in shock that their savior could have brought down from a single swing of Morgan's axe. They really couldn't defy his power. Zoro could hardly breathe. This kid was putting his life on the line to save that little girl, and all for nothing. That bastard Morgan took him out. Looks like I need more practice, Luffy said as he moved his head, forming the side of his face back. The area changed to one of relief. Their savior was safe. Chi crush, he yelled, enraged with all he had seen. Morgan's blood acted as a solitary force and started pulling towards his heart, breaking bones and exploding arteries to take the quickest path it could. Most all of the damage was internal, leaving only Luffy and the dying man. Morgan cried out as Luffy crushed his heart with his immense volumes of blood. His insides were on fire from the burning sensation of liquid terror boring through his body. He ultimately fell in the dirt before him, blood pouring from his mouth as it searched for an escape. Helmeppo was in utter shock. That monster showed up, destroyed his life. It was flipped, turned upside down. He pulled the flintlock he kept on him for safety, or rather to threaten people, and pointed it at the swordsman who started it all. You killed my daddy. A blonde-haired boy yelled from back from the crucifixes. He had a gun held to Zoro's head. How dare you? He suddenly fell over as Luffy held out his arm and clenched his fists. Chi rush, he said plainly as the boy fell. Blood rushed to and from his head so fast he passed out. It may cause some major injuries, but with that weird head it was nothing he was a stranger to. Luffy looked towards the crowd and started to walk away, eager to get something to eat and regain his strength. Before he could leave the gates, the crowd rushed him. All hail our savior, Mugiwara, Mugiwara, they chanted as they hoisted him up. They never learned his name, so they had to go by the straw hat adorning his head. He was carried back into town and brought to restaurant owned by Rika's mother. Drinks are on me, a man yelled, making everyone rejoice. You, Mugiwara, you're getting everything free, he yelled, making the boy smile. Give me meat, he yelled in response, earning a hearty laugh from everyone. The boy had devoured 2 steaks before the green-haired swordsman came in silently and sat by him. Hey, thanks for saving the little girl, Zoro said, holding out on the thank you for saving his own skin. He didn't want to admit he owed the kid his life. If you really want to thank me, join my crew. I could use a swordsman, even if you do get tied up. Shishishi. He laughed as Zoro's face got a little angry. Yeah, well, I don't see why not. Damn Marines tried to kill me anyway. But I'm going to tell you something right now. If you get in the way of my dream, we will no longer be crewmates. I will become the world's greatest swordsman. Luffy only smiled back. Good, because I'm going to be king of the pirates. Chapter 2. Blood vs. Clown. The wild party quickly took a sharp nose dive as the door opened. A small squadron of Marines entered the room. It was the new acting officer and the uninjured Marines left on the island. They numbered at nearly a dozen and looked worse off than the ones Luffy had fought. Spit and bruises were apparent on their arms, one even had what looked like shards of glass embedded in his side from a bottle thrown at him. They were undoubtedly hated for not standing up against Morgan. They had to wait for a pirate to barge in and tear out his insides before they could even act like he was doing anything wrong. We came to apologize. To you, stranger. You may be a pirate, but you saved this island. That being said, your heart is pounding, Luffy stated, not looking away from his plate as he finished the last bit of meat. Are you scared I killed him to take over this town and rule it as a stepping stone on my way to becoming an evil warlord? He asked in a serious tone, making the hearts of everyone in the room beat twice as fast. I believe everyone here knows I could take on anything you could throw at me. The more of you I take down, the more powerful you'll make me. Everyone started to sweat. It was true, none of them could stand up to this boy if he decided to do that. It would be their luck to lose a powerful tyrant and gain an unstoppable, bloodthirsty warlord. But I don't wanna do that. Mayor stuff seems boring, he said, easing the tension with a wide smile. Gee, good. For saving this island, we'll allow you to escape before reporting you to the... There isn't a marine in this sea that scares me, Luffy said calmly once again, making his first crew member smile and the marines sweat. But, if you all want me to leave, I think I'll go, on one condition. Listen, pirate, we're letting you escape without issue. What else could you possibly want? Let Kobe here enlist, he said calmly, feeling poor Kobe's weak heart pound feverishly. Ignore his past while you're at it. We can't just do that. Pirates are constantly trying to plant spies in the Marines to aid in their survival. How can we know he's not doing that? You can't, but you owe me more than an escape. So I'm going to stay until you let him join, Luffy said, crossing his arms and staring the man down. There was a long silence as the two men stared one another down. However, everyone in the bar could see who would win. Only one could even bear to look at the boy. Damn it, fine, but he'll have an eye on him at all times, the Marine said through gritted teeth as he looked at the boy. Shishishi. Good choice. I have no idea where the next Marine base would be. Plus, I'd have to kill you guys so you didn't report him, Luffy said in an upbeat tone, which scared everyone more than the actual words. His backup plan was to murder every Marine so this one kid could enlist. Hear that, Kobe? You're gonna... Luffy was stopped by a punch from the pink-haired little boy. Damn it, Luffy, he said, crying heavily. I'm going to be your enemy now. Kobe wiped the tears from his eyes before finishing his outburst. Thank you, he yelled out, confusing most of the people who watched. Luffy reared back from the punch and hit him back. Yup, so you better train hard if you ever want a chance of fighting me, Admiral Kobe, he said with a smile as he started to walk towards the door. He stopped and walked into the kitchen, returning with 2 raw steaks. Want one for the road, Zoro? Luffy asked as he walked towards the door, no intent on cooking. No thanks, Captain. You're not supposed to eat raw meat. Quote. His warning fell on deaf ears as Luffy started to wring all of the blood from the steak and pull it in his mouth. Thankfully they were outside so no one inside could see the grotesque display that left Luffy looking like he just ate a person. Geez, Luffy, don't do that, Zoro said as he walked alongside his new captain. He was by no means a lightweight when it came to the grotesque, but that was unsettling. You know it's not healthy to eat raw meat or drink blood. But blood makes me stronger. Plus, it tastes so good, Luffy defended as he dried out the other steak and drank down the blood. So unless you're looking to donate to my stomach, let me eat how I eat, Luffy said before eating the now wrung out steaks. You'd actually drink human blood? Zoro asked as he climbed in their little boat and pushed off. He wanted to question why that was their only boat, but was more infatuated with the whole, my captain may or may not feast off of human blood like some kind of day-walking vampire thing. Well, I already absorb it when I fight, though I have to let it out afterward if it's not the same type. Drinking it may be different, Luffy said as he leaned over the edge of the boat and ran his fingers in the water. Wanna help me find out? Not a chance, Captain, Zoro responded, scooting away from the boy. It wouldn't help if he actually decided to do some pseudo-cannibalism, since he could rip blood from people's body, but it helped his mental state. Ah, well, I want to find out now, Luffy yelled out in protest. At least he wasn't doing it by force. Calm down, you can eat up the next giant bad guy. Deal. Fine, but they better not taste funny, he griped. Zoro sighed, then facepalmed. This was a conversation he was having with a man he'd have to follow till one of them died or till he tried to stop his dream. A boy who could rip people's insides out, wanted to try drinking human blood, and was apparently happy to do both. Luffy and Zoro floated aimless in the sea, heading in the direction one of the townspeople thankfully pointed them towards as the closest island. It still didn't speed up their tiny boat, so they had to come up with something. So what are you anyway? No normal person could have done that stuff. Oh yeah, I'm a blood man. I ate the chi-chi no mi, Luffy replied with a wide smile, showing it off by turning his hand to blood. I can control any blood I can feel. Not really sure of the range, but I can take out anything but a sniper. Wow, that's powerful, Zoro said as he stared at Luffy, who only laughed. He had precious little knowledge on devil fruit users, but he could tell this one must rival a lot. Shishishi. Yeah, but it's exhausting to use. Every time I use it on someone else, I'm fighting their heart, or pushing stuff precisely constantly. Luffy said, turning his finger to blood and throwing it at the air. It shot up with the speed of a bullet and then fell back down to him. But using my own blood is easier, since it's going with my flow and not against it. Sounds like quite the power, Zoro said. The first step to knowing his captain, before he was a friend, was knowing what he could do. So, that's what you did with those Marines. Moved their blood while it was inside them. Shishishi, cool huh, I can stop most fights right away if I'm willing to do stuff like that. Then why don't you clench your fist and the enemy's dead? Zoro said, causing Luffy to look up at the sky. Where's the fun in that? Luffy responded, smiling his soon-to-be trademark smile. Besides, that thing on Morgan was hard to do. I mean, your heart keeps beating after a lot of stuff. That thing pushes a lot of blood everywhere at once from birth till death. Unless I'm sure I don't have a fight after a guy, I don't like doing it. Thankfully I had some meat and blood. Now I could take out another Sea King. Zoro laughed a little. Some raw meat would fix him right up. He tried to ignore the another part of the little boasting. Good, would hate to think you're weak, Zoro said with a smile as he lashed at his new captain's ego. Hopefully it would pass the time as they sailed aimlessly around this damn sea. You wish you were as strong as me, Luffy said as he hopped up. He was eager to do something, anything to discharge his energy. We'll see, Captain, we'll see, Zoro said as he looked up towards the sky. Huh, there's a bird up there, he said absently as he looked to his captain. So there is. Must be big, looks really high up. Think you could catch it? Zoro asked, looking over at Luffy. Well yeah, maybe, but lot of just see if I miss, Luffy said as he looked around. Thankfully he had the state of mind to realize that was a lot of risk to get a bird Zoro couldn't eat. Unless he wanted to start a fire on the wooden ship. Good point. Let's just wait it out. Hand me an orange, he said as he pointed to the barrel. Thank whoever they thought to bring along some food. Luffy wanted to bring more meat, but that would have been eaten in an hour, not a few days. Luffy tossed him one and started to stand. Land ho, adventure, Luffy yelled as he ran to the bow of the ship. People ho, he yelled as he spotted some men swimming in the middle of the open water. Should we save them? If we don't have to go out of our way, they can row for us. Shishishi, good thinking. Hey, guys, swim to us, Luffy yelled as he started to row to match their swimming. He finally stopped as they got close. Oh thank God, a boat, one yelled out as they climbed up. Thank you, we thought we'd drown out there. But now, we'll be taking this. One of the men yelled as he drove his sword through the boy's back. His partners in crime rushed the swordsman, but were floored in one swing. The man tried to pull his sword out of the boy, but it was stuck. Damn it, he yelled as he tried to kick off the boy, but his foot was absorbed in. What the hell is wrong with this kid? He yelled in anger and fear as he felt his sword break. All his strength in pulling on it sent him flying to the stern of the tiny ship. Is that how you repay your saviors? The boy asked plainly as he turned around, blood seeping from his eyes as the tip of the sword fell to the floor. I can feel your heart beating faster, he said as he stepped closer, leaving large pools of blood with each step. Are you afraid of death? The demon asked as blood started to fall from his mouth and back into his body. The pirate was on the verge of unconsciousness from the horror show before him. He thought he was afraid of sharks, spiders, sea kings, and Buggy. But this thing was like a 8-legged land shark the size of a sea king with Buggy's face. The boy was starting to ooze blood from his very pores. I'm sorry. I repent. Please. The man knelt in prayer, ready to worship whatever vengeful god he angered that sent a demon like this after him. Repentance is for the church. The demon growled out, voice affected from the blood in his throat, before grabbing the man by the throat. He ran a sharpened finger along his neck. He got to release some of that pent-up energy for a good show. Based on the number of racing hearts, even Zoro was scared. Mercy. He started to cry as he felt blood drawn, but none spilled down his throat. It was sucked into the demon before him. Okay, the boy said, soaking back up all the blood he had spilled. With a quick glance he saw the other two shaking in their boots. Zoro wasn't doing much better. His mouth was agape from the sight of his captain transforming into a terrifying creature. Think you could row us to the next island? Luffy asked the three mutineers. They nodded feverishly and manned the oars, leaving him to laugh at their fear loudly. You really are a monster, Captain, Zoro said, holding back the knot in his throat. Axe, bullets, swords, nothing worked on him. If Luffy did try and stop him from becoming the greatest, there wasn't too much he could do to prevent it. He'd need to train even harder. If there was one monster out here, there was bound to be more. Shishishi. A monster would kill them and drink their blood. He stopped and turned to the men. Hey, any of you guys wanna give me some blood to try? Luffy asked like they were passing him the salt. They started crying mid-row, looking at each other and questioning what kind of hell they fell into. They just wanted a boat to get back to their captain. Aw, forget it, Luffy said with a frown on his face. He didn't want to wring anyone dry. Why was no one willing to give him a sample? Why were you out here anyway? He asked, hoping to get the weaklings to stop crying. Someone stole our ship. One of them said hesitantly, hoping not to enrage his captor from the irony. Why yeah, some damn whore tricked us into letting her on our ship then. She stole it. Another chimed in, anger overtaking his rational thinking for a moment before he realized where he was. Shishishi. I like her already. She's a more successful version of you guys. Luffy laughed as he watched them cower in fear. Maybe she should join our crew, Luffy said to Zoro, who eyed their new captives. Well, outsmarting these guys doesn't look hard, but I see what you mean. We'll see about it, Zoro said, reaching for Wado. Why do I have a bad feeling about this chick already? Shishishi. If she's cute, she's mine, Luffy said sternly at his swordsman, who looked curiously at him. What? I haven't had a girlfriend and the Pirate King needs a lot of girlfriends. Fine with me, Captain. I'll worry about women after I become the world's greatest swordsman, he said, patting Wado to assure himself. Though he furrowed his brow at Luffy's giggle. Shishishi. So you're saying you'll be the only one handling your sword? Luffy said before covering his mouth to hold back his roar of laughter. Zoro was about to hit him before a captive spoke up. We're here, sirs, one of the pirates said as they rowed into the docks. They stood, staring at the dock like it was their last beacon of hope. They needed to get away from this monster as soon as they could, even if it meant returning to Buggy. Thanks, Luffy yelled, jumping up and onto the docks. Shishishi. You guys were a real help, Luffy said before sticking out his hand and looking at the men. Chi rush. With a move of his fingers he slammed blood into and out of their heads, causing them to faint and fall over each other on the ship. Okay Zoro, throw them up here on the dock and let's go exploring, Luffy ordered absently as he started walking. Wait, why? Zoro yelled at his captain, but got no answer. Zoro looked at the passed out men, shaking his head as he threw them up on the dock. They were going to wake up eventually, and would probably go tell their captain or steal their ship. As long as they kept this quick it wouldn't be a problem. Luffy, wait up, Zoro yelled as he ran after his captain. The idiot managed to get so far in such a short time. Where the hell is everyone? Luffy asked out loud as he roamed the streets. There wasn't a person in sight. He heard Zoro yell and his feet pattering in the distance. He would catch up. Luffy wandered over to the remnants of a collapsed store. What happened here? He asked as he started rummaging through the rubble. Zoro, what the hell could tear down a building in the middle of a town? Luffy yelled back at his swordsman, who ran up to examine it. Something big, probably hungry by the look of the spilled food. Zoro said as he looked at the pet food on the ground. Some were in pools of saliva that had hints of blood. So it's a mystery, Luffy said as he stood up from the collapsed building. What animal doesn't eat its entire kill? Luffy asked as he eyed the dog's body in the rubble. It made him sick to his stomach that whatever it was had food but killed the dog anyway. I don't know. Come on, Captain. No point in hanging around and waiting for it, Zoro said as he walked towards the steps. Yeah, let's go find it and kick its ass, Luffy yelled as he ran from the corpse and now grave of the presumably tough animal. It appeared to have some blood on its teeth from a bite rather than coughing any up. As the duo walked on, they were shocked by the sound of a large explosion. Their first instinct told them to run towards the sound, since they were insane, and see what made it. They were greeted with the sight of an entire row of houses reduced to rubble. With a quick look they saw a group of clowns, and that was no insult since they were dressed like clowns, dancing around a cannon. I think it's safe to say those guys, Luffy. Zoro had to start running after his captain, who charged full speed at the dancing maniacs. Luckily they were no longer looking at the destruction, and had turned back around for whatever reason. Do you see my power now, girl? Buggy yelled in with pride at the wide-eyed captive. She thought she could just take his riches without punishment. That is how you will meet your end. At the end of a buggy ball. His crew all cheered at the very mention of the name. That power would make them the greatest pirate crew in history. You monster. Those were people's homes. People lived. The orange-haired girl was stopped with a death glare from the clown. He walked towards her angrily brandishing knives. Those pathetic weaklings mean nothing to me. They were lucky to be an example of my power. His eyes were locked on hers. He smiled wide and started to laugh. Gyahaha, see, look how terrified you are, and you had the gall to steal from me in the first place. He boasted, before pressing the knife to her stomach. Don't think I've forgotten that either, he said in a much more serious tone, before giving an unsettling smile. Men, you deserve a reward for capturing this tart. She's all. As Buggy turned, he saw a lanky boy oozing blood charging at him with a large red sword. Ken slice. The boy yelled as he reached the clown, slicing the blood sword down his body and splitting him in two. He turned from the clown and the girl to the man's crew. You bastards, I'll rip you all apart. He yelled at them, but they only laughed. It pissed him off that they weren't scared or angry. The emotions he came to expect. Damn it, stop laughing you bastards, Luffy yelled in rage as they waited patiently. He felt a small sting and looked down at his stomach, seeing a blade poke through. Quite flashy there, boy. But useless against me, Buggy said as he launched a second hand at the boy, this one lodging the knife through his chest. For I am a chop man. Swords are useless against me. He drew his hands back and began to laugh as blood poured from the wounds. He and his men stopped when the blood not only stopped flowing, but was sucked back up and the wound healed. Hey, sounds pretty cool, Luffy said as he slowly turned around. But I'm a blood man. With the end of that statement he turned himself to a pool of blood and started flowing towards Buggy's men. He sent out small shards at each of the grunts before him, barely enough to injure them, but more than enough for his flashy show. He made special care to get the giant lion and the guy on top. That was a lot of blood to use, more than a dozen men. Blood man. Buggy was frozen in horror as the boy transformed into blood and started slashing the heels of his men. A Logia, that Logia, here, how, it's been years. Fire, use fire, he yelled as his men, who started to throw torches at the blood. No you morons, on yourselves. His underlings looked in confusion at him. Few got his meaning before they started to cauterize their wounds with the torches. They realized a blood man could get at their wounds unless they closed them. They yelled in pain from the flames on their skin. It did however save them from the next attack. Chi theft, Luffy yelled as he formed up from the ground, robbing the men who failed to act of their blood. One of which was some weird guy on a big lion. That was quite a lot of blood for him. He absorbed it greedily, hungrily before he let them fall to the ground. Most of them would survive, some would not. He wasn't aiming to kill them for following a bad captain, but holding back in the midst of battle wasn't easy. Damn it, not here, Buggy yelled as he started to look at the boy. How could his fruit be back? He thought as he backed away. Burn him alive, men. Boil his blood, he ordered from his position, watching them throw alcohol at the boy. Cabbagee quickly acted, blowing flames and lighting the blood boy on fire. Ah, hot hot hot, Luffy yelled as he tried to turn into blood. It was no use, alcohol seeped into him and was acting as fuel. He barreled through them and started smashing barrels, searching for the elusive water they must have been keeping. Didn't they keep anything besides booze? Gyahaha, see, boy, your death will be the flashiest yet. Burn, burn, he yelled before he watched the barrel of water be cut open. Luffy, over here, Zoro yelled to his captain, who rushed over and dunked himself into the barrel Zoro had pointed out. Luffy shed the alcohol inside the barrel and forced himself out of it, panting heavily as he touched his body. It was a weird sensation to not have any lasting pain from burning alive, but he was able to heal back immediately. Thanks Zoro, you saved me, but just sit back and watch. They're out of tricks, Luffy said before rushing back towards Buggy's crew. He stood just outside the range at which they could sling the alcohol and drew his arms back. Chi blanket. Luffy shot his arms upwards and created a large blanket of blood over their heads. They all started to back away, then dive for cover at the sound of his next attack. Chi rain. Blood started falling from the sky at lightning speed. It clotted into daggers and stabbed all who were out in the open, leaving them to fall and be stabbed by even more falling shards. The pirates screamed in either fear from under their table shields or pain from outside. The daggers weren't long enough to start hitting organs, or strong enough to pierce bone, but they would keep them pinned down. Especially that annoying guy who set him on fire. You damn boy, I'll destroy you and that stupid straw hat. Buggy yelled as the fuse closed in. He may have to take out his entire crew to do it, but he would stop this kid and his damn power. Buggy was meant to be king. The ball fired and soared towards that damn Mugiwara. The blast already starting to tear away at everything in front of it. Luffy was directly in the path, and had no time to move. With a quick launch of blood he closed his eyes. Homunculus, he yelled, creating a small clone of himself outside the blast. The ball hit him and exploded, tearing through him and everything behind him. Gyahaha, take that stupid Mugiwara, Buggy yelled in triumph as a large blast enveloped the boy. Cabbagee and Richie were in the mass of people on the receiving end of that powerful shot, but it was a small price to pay to get rid of that boy and that unholy devil fruit. But they had some human shields, they may have lived. He quickly turned to the swordsman, who stared in shock. His captain was invincible, how could this freak show take him out? Now, you, Roronoa Zoro, Buggy said with a large smile. That green hair and those swords were all the introduction he needed. I believe I'll take your head next. Nami was in tears from where she lay. Her one hope of escaping alive, let alone unharmed, was just obliterated. Which would mean Buggy would be taking out all of his rage on her once he killed the swordsman. Luffy breathed heavily from his new body. It was a major pain to do, but it saved him from being wiped off the planet. That thing seemed pretty dangerous. He started absorbing the blood he could and began to flow towards the clown, who was preoccupied with Zoro. With a quick form Luffy was standing behind him, arms stretched back. Chi clap, he yelled before slamming his fists together. Well, they would be together if Buggy's head weren't in the way. The sudden impact, combined with Luffy's power, slammed the blood around in Buggy's skull, making him pass out and fall to the ground. Luffy smiled and held his hand to Buggy's chest. He picked him up and reared his arms back. Chi bazooka, he yelled, launching the unconscious clown far into the distance. Space twinkle, he said to himself with a smile as the clown may or may not have left orbit. Zoro fell back with relief at the sight of his captain. That damn clown would have made Swiss cheese out of him alone. The bastard wouldn't be affected by swords, and that was all he knew. Glad to see you back, Luffy, he said, hardly a drop of the sea of relief showing. Shishishi, killed by a clown, that's a phobia, not the end for the Pirate King. Luffy said confidently as he grew back to normal. He had little time to enjoy it when he remembered why he attacked that bastard in the first place. He walked to the girl on the ground and held out his hands to show he wasn't going to hurt her. He sucked in a pool of blood and ran it up the ropes, slicing them carefully off of her. "Hey, are you okay, miss?" he asked calmly, taking her hand. "Do you need anything? Water?" Nami shook in fear at the sight of him. The man was a monster or a demon or anything besides the boy he appeared to be. But it didn't matter. He had saved her. He may want something in return for it, but right now he was her savior. She reached up and wrapped around his neck, hugging him as she cried into his shoulder. Thank you so much." Chapter 3. A Blood Man and a Butler. Zoro, help, what do I do? Luffy yelled as he stuck his arms in the air. The orange-haired girl was hugging around his chest and sobbing like a newborn. Why is she crying? Zoro. Luffy called for help to his only friend. He had no experience with stuff like this and was on the verge of freaking out with her. Zoro fought back the laugh as he captain yelled for help. He just saved this woman's life and he's surprised she's crying. Poor moron. Hug her back, moron. Zoro said calmly as he got up. He sure as hell wasn't going to hug her, so the captain could do it. Luffy nodded and hugged the crying girl back, squeezing her tight and letting her cry. He didn't really know how to cheer her up. She shouldn't be sad. Clown guy is unconscious, maybe, so she's safe. I'm Luffy, who are you? Nami, she said from his chest, wiping the tears and breaking the hug. She turned a deep shade of crimson when she saw the tears she left on his chest. Thank you for saving me, Luffy. I thought I was going to die. Oh, yeah, dying sucks, but now you're not going to, right? So you don't have a reason to cry, Luffy said with a big smile. The simplicity of the answer cheered Nami right up, but he just had to keep talking. So, wanna join my crew? What crew? She asked, looking over at the green swordsman who didn't do anything. The lazy bastard. Me and Zoro. I'm still getting crew members so I can be the king of the pirates. Luffy yelled triumphantly, ignoring the fact that his crew was 2 people strong. Nami fell to the ground when she heard it. She swore her mind had made up him saying that just moments before. He couldn't be a pirate. Pirates were evil. Every pirate was evil. He couldn't be one. He was her savior. Or he was just another pig. I hate pirates. She spat back. It may cost her her life, but she was too weak to try and lie. Oh, well okay, Luffy said as he started to walk away. Come on Zoro, I don't think the people here will be too happy about all these destroyed buildings. He yelled as he headed back towards his crewmate. Let's try and get directions to the next. What do you mean okay? Nami yelled from her spot on the ground. You charge up and take on an entire pirate crew for me, ask me to join your crew, then just leave. His mind was racing. How could he do that? Didn't pirates kidnap, plunder, and rape? More importantly, why was she questioning him? Shishishi, you want to join us now, don't you? Luffy laughed as he started to walk back. As much as he wanted to keep demanding, he doubted that would get far with her. If she was truly thankful for the rescue, maybe she'd make an exception on her hatred. No, she yelled back in anger. How dare he? I'm willing to make a temporary alliance. For the small price of. Are you a prostitute? Luffy asked, causing Nami to stop mid-sentence. The way he asked it was with too much seriousness. Zoro fell to the ground gripping his sides. He couldn't breathe through his roaring laughter. Luffy just burned that witch. What the hell do you mean? Am I a prostitute? Nami yelled angrily as she ran to hit the boy, who did nothing to dodge. Well, you're charging us for your company. Don't prostitutes do that? That's what Shanks warned me about anyway, he asked as the fist went through his face harmlessly. Luckily he saw that punch coming, it looked like it would hurt even him. Stop Luffy, I can't breathe, Zoro yelled. It was honestly the funniest experience of his life to see his captain cut down this woman so effortlessly. Damn it, shut up, I'm offering you an alliance. She yelled as she pulled her fist out of his head. She took a deep breath and tried to hold back the anger, but it didn't work well. Look, I'll come along with you as long as it proves beneficial. Deal? She asked through gritted teeth. This savior of her was a real ass. Okay, you'll see we're the best anyway. Zoro, we got a new crewmate. Plus, she's cute, he yelled happily before turning back to Nami, who managed to go from angry to embarrassed at the sudden compliment. So what do you do anyway? He asked, cocking his head. He may need to figure out stuff like this beforehand. I'm the best navigator in the world, she replied through crossed arms. I'm guessing neither of you have any navigational skills, she said, not phrasing it as a question since she knew the answer. I can read a compass, but that's about it, Luffy said, looking down at the ground. He did try and learn the basics before he left, but he didn't really think about getting maps or anything. Nami sighed and started walking. Well, you need a lot more than to get around. Come on, let's get out of here, she said as she passed them, not wanting to spend another moment amongst the scum of buggy pirates. Luffy and Zoro nodded and followed the woman. She was fuming with anger and charging back towards the dock. They overheard the angry charge of the mayor over the death of Cho-Cho, whoever that was. They arrived at the docks and encountered the pirates, just waking up from their blood-induced slumber. They immediately cowered in fear as Luffy walked by, seemingly ignoring them. Nami climbed into the boat she had stolen from them. Luffy turned back and smiled. Thanks for getting us here so easily, guys. But you're probably going to get arrested. Or beaten to death. So run, Luffy said casually as he untied the rope keeping the dingy tied to the dock as he saw a mass of people rushing at them. Some time passed and Luffy wanted to get to know his new crewmate, so he hopped over aboard her ship while Zoro slept. So, Nami, talk, Luffy said with a smile as he laid down. About what? She asked, annoyed by his sudden interruption. I don't know, he said innocently, rolling over to look at her. Well, you gotta think of something you want me to talk about, Nami said as she glanced at the compass. They were heading towards the next island at a decent pace. Why do you hate pirates? He asked, watching her face twist into one of anger and fear. I just do, okay, she said angrily, hoping that would end it. You know, I can tell when people are lying, Luffy said as he stood up. Your heart goes just a little faster. You're a good liar. Pirates are scum, she answered, heart indicating that was the truth. Though it didn't explain much. Lots of people think so. Still need a reason though, he said simply as he stared towards the sky. I don't want to tell you, okay. Nami spat back, growing increasingly uncomfortable. Fine, but I'll figure it out eventually, he said with a smirk before hopping back over to Zoro. They docked on the beach of one of the Gecko Islands. Syrup Village was the name of this one. They didn't have any greeting, which was shocking. Typically small islands would either be suspicious or welcoming to new arrivals. The three went deeper into the island before hearing yells. We've had it, Usopp. You've been doing this for years now. Enough. Various villagers yelled at the cornered young man. He had tried the daily routine of yelling about pirates, but they were ready for him this time. He was shielding his body from the thrown bottles with his arms. Shards of glass were buried in his forearms and shins from the shattering. You fucking pest. Stop, please. He hasn't hurt anyone. The three boys yelled from the crowd, their fathers holding them back and preventing them from protecting the young man. Hasn't hurt anyone. He's been disturbing us for years. 10 years of this. We lost our sympathy a long time ago. Another man yelled as he threw a rock. It clocked the boy in the knee, causing him to fall to the ground. No more. The boy stopped trying to defend his body, covering his eyes so his three friends wouldn't see him cry. I just tried to lift your spirits. He sobbed into his arms. His crew started to cry and punch their father's legs. Is this what you wanted, you little brat? Another man asked in a loud shout as he fired a flintlock at the defenseless boy, making him cower more. Our kids are acting like you now. Is that what you wanted, Usopp? Usopp glanced from his arms up at the crowd. Not a single face that met his eyes even wanted him alive anymore. His friends were dragged away after they sided with him over their own parents. He wiped the tears and started to cover his body again. Curl up, knees to chest, don't let them hit anything vital. It's what he had learned over the years. I just wanted. Hey, get away from him. The blood-curdling scream rocked the crowd into turning away from Usopp. None spoke up at first as the stranger walked angrily towards them. Who are you? One yelled, mostly in fear, as he charged towards them. He held up his gun just in case things got serious. "Shut up," he yelled, walking through the crowd and to the young man. He didn't deserve this, no matter who he was. "Are you okay?" he asked in a much calmer tone. He was bleeding from multiple wounds, but not too much. The most he could do would be pull out the shards and prevent any more bleeding. Hey, just who the hell do you think you are? That annoying punk the man suddenly yelled in pain, his arm felt like it was on fire. He stared in shock as, against his will, he pointed the gun at his head. His finger burned like ants were in his veins. It took every ounce of strength to keep from pulling the trigger. What the hell was happening? You all think this is right? Attacking a defenseless man over a prank. Luffy yelled in anger. He wanted to kill this man where he stood, but that wasn't good enough. He had to teach all of them a lesson. He forced the man to face the crowd and put the gun in his own mouth. The length of time he controlled the man's blood was getting taxing, but he was fueled by enough rage to ignore it. At the last moment he moved the man's hand so the gun was pointing straight up and forced him to pull the trigger, leaving him in tears as his life flashed before his eyes. "Hey, you're Usopp, right?" Luffy said, attention back on the boy. The mob stumbled back away, no one even bothering to help the man who nearly blew his own brains out. They could not and would not stand against that boy, not when he had such complete control over them. The man finally stumbled to his feet and ran away, leaving the gun on the ground as he passed two more people. "Why yeah, who are you?" he asked shakily, trying to focus back on what just happened. He was preparing for another beating, or worse. "Luffy, Monkey D. Luffy, I think I've heard of you before," he said, trying to get the poor boy's mind off what just happened. He definitely knew Usopp, but would like to ease into that. Though it may just be the nose, Yasopp's kid, right? He remembered Yasopp, best sniper in the world. He would go on and on about how proud he was of his son. It hurt to think Usopp would be treated like this. "You know my dad, huh?" Usopp said, looking back at his arms. He hoped for good things, but couldn't expect them anymore. He'd hate to fight the man who saved him over his father, but it may be inevitable. "Sure do. He talked about you a lot when he visited," Luffy said, boosting Usopp's spirits. He could shoot the antennae off of an ant at 100 feet. He boasted, making Usopp laugh. "Yeah, he's the best," Usopp said as he slowly stood. Whoever he was, this guy was a real lifesaver. "Can I get you guys anything for helping me?" he asked, assuming the two misfits were with him. "Later. First, do you have anywhere we can patch you up? A friend maybe?" Luffy asked to Nami's dismay. Yeah I guess," Usopp said, walking as best he could towards Kaya. He couldn't trust anyone in the village to help him anymore, as much as he didn't want her to see him like this. After a long walk, aided by Luffy and Zoro letting him lean on them, they walked to the gates of the mansion. "Kaya, Usopp needs help," Luffy yelled towards the mansion. Usopp had finally given up the name of this stranger so they could get her attention. Miss Kaya cannot, the butler had to fight off his smirk at the sight of the injured Usopp. That pest had been a thorn in his side for years, so any pain he didn't cause on him was delicious. "Help you at the moment. Go see someone in town. The people in town can't help shit symbols," Zoro yelled out at the butler. He didn't know what to call those things on his uniform, but they looked like turds. "Well, that's too bad. She cannot." "Usopp," Kaya yelled as she rushed from the door. It was the first time she had left her home in ages, but Usopp was hurt. "Clawhador, let them in," she cried in desperation to her butler. "My lady, go back inside," he said coldly, ignoring her order and the man desperate for help. "No Clawhador, let them in," she yelled again, making him turn and open the gate for them. "Thank you Kaya," Luffy said as he helped Usopp in. He had learned some basic manners, but he stuck his tongue out at the butler as they passed. That guy was a real dick. They carried Usopp inside and laid him on a table. He bit down on a rag as they pulled out the shards. He showed miraculous grit, not shedding a tear in front of Kaya. "What happened to him?" Kaya asked the three when they left the room. Mary was doing some impromptu stitch work on his wounds and didn't want to lose focus. "Those people out there," Nami muttered as she clenched her fists. It disgusted her to think anyone would do that. Usopp was no tyrant. Luffy didn't want to tiptoe around the subject another second. When we got here, people were throwing rocks and bottles at him. One guy shot at him, Luffy said, causing Kaya to sit and sob. They're good people, they all tried to cheer me up when my parents died. Kaya said more to herself than the three strangers. Why would they hurt Usopp? His stories, Luffy said plainly, staring at the floor as he clenched his fists. But, they're funny, he's been telling me stories for years. She whimpered out as she tried to rub her tears. Why would they do this over stories? Because they get old, Miss Kaya. Clawhador said coldly as he looked through the door and into the room with Mary and Usopp. The boy is a liar and a menace to this village. Clawhador, don't take that back, Luffy yelled, using all of his concentration to not punch the bastard. HMPH. That boy has done nothing but lie for years, so I will not. He said with a smirk. Usopp's terrible reputation made everything so much easier. Clawhador, please. Usopp's been nothing but nice to me, Kaya yelled, standing up to block the raven-haired boy. She didn't want him to hurt Clawhador. Why do you think that is, Miss Kaya? The boy's obviously after your money, he said as he turned to her. Usopp doesn't care about my money, Clawhador, Kaya defended as she looked in the room. Usopp was still on the table, suffering through Mary's attempted suitoring. So you say, but let's face it, the boy is nothing but trouble. He's a no-good crook just like his father. Luffy couldn't hold back any longer. He rushed past Kaya with a drawn fist and clocked the butler in the jaw, sending him flying back a few feet. Usopp is better than you bastard, he yelled before Kaya and Nami pulled him back. Stop, Clawhador is just trying to protect me, Kaya cried as she tried to pull the boy back. She didn't have the strength to do it, but Luffy wouldn't punch the butler if it would hurt her or Nami. PFF'd. Just as expected, the thief befriended brutes, Clawhador said as he rubbed his face. The boy could throw a punch, as evident from his bloody nose and possibly fractured jaw. Damn it, Luffy wanted to hit him again, but opted to make him bleed more from the nosebleed instead. That way he wouldn't have to hurt Kaya in the progress. Just another, Clawhador put his hand to his nose again and froze. His entire hand was caked in blood. Extremely unusual for a nosebleed. Brute. He wiped the blood on a handkerchief and refocused himself. I shall leave you to your own devices, pirates, he said before leaving them. Ah, damn it, Luffy yelled as he barged out of the mansion. He couldn't handle hearing Kaya's excuses for the bastard's behavior. After those damn villagers attacked Usopp, he didn't care for any more reasons. He took his rage out on Landscape. He may not have an innately destructive ability, but his punches could shatter the rocks he came across with ease. Luffy, Luffy, Nami yelled as she walked beside Zoro. They could cover more ground if they split up, but if those villagers from earlier came back, she couldn't defend herself nearly as well as a swordsman. Where the hell did he go? Probably to fight something, Zoro said idly as he walked, leaving the yelling to Nami. I'm amazed he didn't rip that butler apart, he said, spitting out in disgust. This whole island was full of disgusting people, but that butler was extra despicable. Yeah, I've been meaning to ask. What the hell did he do to that guy? Nami asked, hiding her fear. She saw the fight between Luffy and Buggy, but through mostly closed eyes. She still had no explanation to who or what he was in terms of that power. She also didn't see any puppeteer work like he did on that villager. From what I can guess, some freaky blood-bending stuff, he said as he slowed to a stop. He really didn't like thinking of just what Luffy was doing to people. No amount of speed, strength, or skill could stop someone who used your blood as a weapon. Ask him about it when we find him. Fine, worthless swordsman, she muttered as she walked. Luffy had ended his assault on the various trees and rocks he crossed, though some trees were irreparably damaged as a result of his outburst, and decided to spy. He felt 2 blood sacks, a term he used for unidentified person he felt with his power, down the cliff he was near and waited at the top, listening closely. Your plan is working perfectly, Captain. A weirdly dressed man who looked like a reject of Buggy's crew said to the butler. That boy is so hated, no one will believe his warnings. Yes, but I'm concerned with Kaya. Those idiot townspeople and their outburst have earned him sympathy with the girl. She may believe him, Clawhador said as he wiped his nose. He swore that nosebleed was under control, but it was flowing once more. Well, by that time, it will be too late, the strange man said as he sat down. 3 years, Captain Kuro, your plan will not fail, the man assured, obviously trying to appeal to his ego. Do not call me that, Django, Kuro said coldly back to his terrified crew member. Kuro is dead, move up the attack, that outburst in the village has lulled them all. They will only be weaker for it, he assured, walking away from the strange sphinx-looking man. Luffy was left full of anger, but he knew it was pointless. If they planned to attack tomorrow, so would he. He couldn't let an entire crew attack this island at some random point in time if he killed them both. The actual townspeople weren't high on his list of people to keep alive, but Kaya and Mary were for helping Usopp. He'd make sure they weren't hurt, then deal with the pirates. Luffy, he heard in the distance, snapping him out of his thoughts. There you are, Nami yelled as she rushed towards him. The path of destroyed terrain was a unique breadcrumb trail right to him. Come on, it's about to get dark and Kaya offered to keep us for tonight. Luffy buried his anger and smiled to Nami. It was nice of them to hunt after him. Yeah, let's go, he said calmly as he walked towards them, heading back towards the mansion. Something wrong? She asked with a concerned look as he passed by. He wasn't typically so cold. I wouldn't say wrong exactly, Luffy said with a smile before stopping in his tracks. I'm going to kill that damn butler. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as well as checking out the author on fanfiction.net.